All right, today we're going to talk about the psychology of the optimal experience. We're diving deep into a concept from the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and it's about a state you've almost certainly felt before, but you might not have known what to call it. It's called flow.
So let's start with a feeling we all know, that mental static, right? The constant worry or the boredom that just kind of creeps in whenever your mind isn't laser focused on something. It's that feeling of being adrift, a little anxious, and just not very productive.
Well, there's a powerful name for this, psychic entropy. It sounds complicated, but it's just that state of inner disorder when our attention doesn't have a clear goal. Our consciousness just defaults to chaos. And according to all the research, this is the root cause of most of our unhappiness.
Now, to understand why this happens, you have to look at our mental bandwidth. Our ability to pay attention, what some call psychic energy, is an incredibly limited resource. Get this, we can only process about 126 bits of information per second. That's it. So where we choose to aim that tiny spotlight of attention, well, that literally shapes the entire quality of our lives.
Okay, so if psychic entropy is the problem, what's the solution? It's all about learning to take control of that limited attention and finding the flow state.
You probably know this feeling as being in the zone. That's flow. It's that feeling of complete absorption, where you're so deep into what you're doing that the rest of the world just fades away. The activity itself becomes the reward. You're doing it just for the sake of doing it.
Now, to really get this, it is so important to understand the difference between pleasure and enjoyment. Pleasure, that's just satisfying a need. Eating when you're hungry, resting when you're tired. It brings you back to normal, but it doesn't help you grow. Enjoyment, on the other hand, that comes from pushing yourself, from overcoming a challenge. It takes effort, but that's what leads to personal growth and that incredible sense of accomplishment. Flow is all about pure enjoyment.
So how do we find this state of deep enjoyment? Well, it turns out there's a recipe, and it all comes down to finding the perfect balance between challenge and skill.
Check this out. The whole secret to flow is this delicate balance. It only happens in that one magic spot where a high challenge meets your high level of skill. Think about it, right? If the task is too hard for your skill level, you just feel anxious. If you're really skilled but the task is too easy, you're just bored. And if both are low, total apathy. Flow is that perfect sweet spot where you're stretched but you're not snapped.
So researchers interviewed thousands of people, and they found 8 common ingredients that are always there during flow. Some are about the task itself, like you need clear goals and immediate feedback, but others are about what's happening inside your head. Your concentration is total, you lose that nagging voice of your ego, and even time itself seems to bend. It's this incredible fusion of your action and your awareness.
So where do we actually find this state? Because this isn't just for, rock climbers and concert violinists. Flow is available to all of us, and often in the places you'd least expect.
This quote from Csikszentmihalyi himself just nails it. The best moments of our lives don't come from just kicking back and relaxing. They come from choosing to push our limits to do something hard that actually matters. And the data on where this actually happens is, well, it's pretty fascinating.
And that leads us to something called the paradox of leisure. It turns out people consistently report being in a state of flow more often at work than during their free time. Kind of weird, right? But it makes sense. Work usually has a built-in structure for flow. There are goals, there's feedback, there are challenges. Passive stuff, like watching TV, actually tends to leave us feeling more apathetic.
Okay, so here's the best part. You don't have to just sit around and wait for flow to happen. You can actually engineer it. You can take almost any activity, even washing the dishes, and turn it into a flow experience. Just set a clear goal, like I'm going to finish in under 10 minutes, create your own feedback, time yourself, get rid of all distractions, and then just tweak the difficulty to match your skill.
And this isn't just about making chores more fun. When you consistently create these moments of deep engagement, it has a massive effect. The real goal here is building a truly meaningful life.
Practicing this helps you develop what's called an autotelic personality. Autotelic just means an activity that's its own reward. So an autotelic person is someone who can find rewards in the very act of living. They're driven from within, and they have this amazing ability to turn life's problems into enjoyable challenges.
And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. A rich, meaningful life isn't something you just find one day. It's something you have to actively build. It is the sum of all these moments of focused, enjoyable engagement, all woven together.
So this leaves us with one final thought. We've talked about the problem of that mental chaos and the solution of flow. You've got the recipe, you've got the ingredients. The only question left is, where are you going to apply it first? What challenge are you going to choose to transform into your next optimal experience?